The Mortal Kombat series is pretty much an iconic series. But when the reboot happened, well, it's a soft reboot happened, they introduced a lot of new characters. So basically, I'm going to talk about it from that point on here. And how it starts is literally, it starts with basically a an attempt to prevent the canon ending for Mortal Kombat 7, Armageddon. And that is basically that Shao Kahn was the ultimate winner. In fact, the opening scene actually of Mortal Kombat 9 does show that battle. And it then showed Raiden sending a message back. Now, for many people, and one of the major rules that they throw into stuff like this is when you have like an all-powerful immortal being or people who are very powerful, if you are going to send a message to yourself or a message to the past, you have to be vague. The more specific you are with the message, the more danger comes with it. And while you're trying to change a past event, the vaguer it is, the better it is. Because anytime you're dealing with past time travel, of course, like I said, you want to have the minimal impact, correct the events before they go out of hand. But you want to be vague enough so the impact is small. It is almost non-noticeable. And so, MK9 in turn then follows the events of the first three games. But in the process, it puts in characters that were not in the original games, which is actually a very smart move. I mean, when you're playing through the MK1 section of MK9, you're coming face to face with a human Cyrax and Sector. You, of course, have Bihan there, Sub-Zero. You also have other characters that were not in the original. You have Baraka showing up, Nightwolf showing up, Kung Lao showing up. And it really changes the course of events. Or attempts to. It has been long stated, especially after Mortal Kombat 3 came out, that Sector was not initially did not initially want to go through the Cyber Lin Kuei, the cyberization. And was more or less forced through it. So did Sub-Zero. Well, so did Smoke. But this is where things start to change. In a process, we have characters show up and events get changed. You have encounters with Melina and Jade in the MK1 part, and Jade didn't show up. Neither of them showed up until MK2. So they work their way through it. And eventually, we have everyone. We get to the final battle. Liu Kang fights Goro, then he fights Shang Tsung, and he wins. And at that point, things don't change. And I think it's actually kind of good in that first set that at one point you're actually playing the human Cyrax. And then we move on, of course, to the MK2 storyline. And we then see characters like Ermac show up. I don't remember if Ermac showed up in the first one, too. At least the first one part of that. It's been a while. I know you also fight Quan Chi in the first one, and I think you do a fight with him in the second part story here, but Quan Chi doesn't show up until MK4. And we continue the story, because as it works, in the original MK2, Outworld shows it can still attack, but it cannot, quote, merge the realms. Not until the Mortal Kombat thing happens. Win 10 tourneys in a row. And I think that rule was designed to basically prolong things. To make it almost impossible. Because a 10-win streak is... well, it's kind of tough to do. It's why most bracket tournaments are only like 5 levels, I think. While it is possible, in a tournament situation, it's more and more impossible. Anyhow, so they agreed to one more tournament. And this is where we start seeing things really start to change. See, in the original MK2, Kano and Sonya were captured and held prisoner. You could see it in the one background. Oh, in this one, Sonya was captured. But Kano had gone willingly. He's in business. He's an arms dealer, I mean, let's face it. And so, we also see the birth of Melina. By MK2, she was already in the game. Well, she was already a fighter. We saw that Katana had switched sides. Then we see Jade switch sides because she's seeing the truth, so to speak. We see Sindel show up, who doesn't show up till MK3. I mean, not Sindel, Shiva. We see a bunch of characters show up that And we do see events change. For one, Smoke doesn't get the cyber treatment. Sub-Zero, Kuai Liang, gets the cyber treatment, which we later rescue him. That's the MK3 part of MK9. We have Raiden deduces that he must win doesn't mean Liu Kang beats Shao Kahn, but Kung Lao defeats Shao Kahn. And other events keep happening. I mean, we see a lot of things playing out in a way that is different from what is canon. Ermac takes away Jax's arms, as we never really had an explanation for that. And I don't think we ever had an explanation for that. And other things happen. I mean, they rescue Sonya. They rescue Kitana. Jade joins the fight. Smoke joins the fight. Kung Lao beats Kintaro. And then Shao Kahn brutally kills him. Not even in an actual fight. And then Kung Lao defeats Shao Kahn again. And things continue to deteriorate. It's then that we have Sindel show up. Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, they all say there's a way to revive Sindel. And they go through the process. I do believe it kills Shang Tsung. Quan Chi has, quote, revived Sindel. And this Sindel is not like the previous incarnation. She's evil. She's manipulative. She's power mad. And then Outworld begins its invasion, but it does not merge. And it's through this that we see the forces try and stop what's going on. We see characters like Ermac and Noob Saibot now show up and fight. We rescue Sub-Zero from the cyberization. We have Nightwolf make the ultimate sacrifice after pretty much all the heroes, save 3, are slaughtered. One being Liu Kang, who went with Raiden to talk to the Elder Gods. And Sonya and Johnny. Which, I think even the movie had once teased at a romantic connection between them, and it was nice to see that finally happen. But as it plays out, with the Elder Gods not helping because Shao Kahn has not broken any rules, yet, they cannot do anything to help. And Raiden feels certain he now has to make a deal with Quan Chi, who is technically the ruler of Netherrealm. And here, Quan Chi reveals a little bit of where his allegiances are. He is not going to align with Raiden, and there's nothing Raiden can offer him because he's basically got it all now. But it's then when Raiden learns the real thing, figures out the real meaning of he must win. Now, all this time, trying to figure out the words from a vague words of warning, this has led Liu Kang to lose faith in Raiden. And so they fight once again, Raiden pretty much killing Liu Kang. Not that he wanted to. And then follows through with letting Shao Kahn win. Which then the Elder Gods do show up and give Raiden the power to kick Shao Kahn's butt, thus killing him. And so, now they are forced to start rebuilding the world. Raiden, Johnny Cage, and Sonya Blade. And so, they walk off, but you see a brief cutscene, a brief moment of Quan Chi talking with Shinnok. This was the plan. This was the overall plan, to get Shinnok resurrected, or free of Netherrealm. And so, we move into Mortal Kombat 10, which did have its basis with Mortal Kombat 4. It also introduced several new characters to the fold. But this one is very tricky to navigate, because as you play through it, we see an outworld recovering from Shao Kahn's oppressive rule. The new leader is the Aztec Kotal, who is now Khan. So he's Kotal Khan. However, there's a civil war in Outworld, because Melina, who has even been called by Shao Kahn his true heir, is not thrilled, because she was initially, Khan, and then they overthrew her. So she's been fighting. Now, she's had allies, Tanya and Rain, which you do have to fight in the game, and they are like, quote, DLC, bonus fighters. But in the same respect, we have things going on in Earthrealm, as things are getting crazy. However, like I said, we open up in the past with the battle fighting Shinnok's forces. And we learn that Johnny, always wondering where Johnny's powers came from. It seems he's descended from something like Mediterranean or Babylonian mystics, hence his special powers. And to truly unlock them, it's sort of someone you care deeply about must be threatened. To which Sonya and during that time was what triggered him to unlock these powers and really lay into Shinnok and help defeat Shinnok. Well, essentially, really defeating Shinnok. And through this storyline, we do see things from the past events. We also somewhat see it in the later one, but as we discover, no, we don't see it from 11, but as we discover, 25 years have passed after Johnny tells of it. To which we have a younger generation, what is dubbed the Kombat Kids. And they are learning the ropes. Now, these Kombat Kids are Cassie Cage, who is the daughter of Johnny and Sonya. And Cassie is a remarkably complex character. She loves both her parents, however, they're divorced. We also find that through these 25 years, Johnny has grown up. While he still has his smart-ass wit, he had the severe wake-up call, and he does what he can for his little girl. Technically, he do what he can for his both for his wife and his little girl, but they got Sonya and Johnny got divorced in the course of those 25 years. They got married, they got divorced. Jax, who was killed in the first game, got brought back. This happened during a fight. The fight with Quan Chi at Quan Chi's base, which was in NetherRealm. And what ends up happening is Quan Chi gets his butt kicked, and 3 revenants are brought back. That of Jax, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero. In the course of the events, of course, and then also we have Takeda, who is the son of Kenshi. Because Kenshi does show up in this game. You can play, well, you don't get to fight exactly as him in the storyline, but you can do it in the ladder modes. And you have Quan Jin, I believe is his name, and he is a descendant of Kung Lao. It's also hinted that he is gay. I think they downright say it. But they are now part of a special force. They're being trained by Johnny, so to speak. And their first mission is to, quote, get the assistance of the Grand Master of the Lin Kuei. Which is actually a training mission. You have to, when you do Sub-Zero's chapter, you actually have to fight all four of them. And it's afterwards that it's revealed that this was a training mission. Because they have to work on working as a group. And working with each other's strengths and weaknesses. And as the game plays out, you will have to deal with that. They also learn that Shinnok's amulet has gone missing. In fact, Melina has it. So, they go to Outworld more or less as to find and return it to some place that should be safe. And this is where we get into meeting some of Kodel's forces. He has a human mercenary who moved to Outworld, Aaron Black. One of the few characters in this series to use modern guns. You have Ferrator, a combination of a brute and a small being that sort of have a symbiotic relationship. And you have, of course, you meet Devora, last of the Khitan. And she sort of holds a first in the franchise. Whenever you have a story mode in these games, you have, usually from the hero's sides I've seen. So this is the first time that we have someone who is, quote, to be the clear-cut villain. Now, of course, as they go to get Shinnok's amulet and are about to take it back, Devora steals it because she's actually working with Quan Chi. And so, frame the Earthrealmers, or make it look like they're in league with her. And Shinnok, the plan is to release Shinnok. At the same time, Sub-Zero has called Scorpion, Hanzo Hasashi, to the Liu Kang base as a peace offering. Now, this is not unheard of. I mean, even as far back as the original MK2, when Scorpion finds out that Sub-Zero in 2 is actually the original Sub-Zero's younger brother, he vows to help protect him. And so, in this one, Sub-Zero wishes to end the hostilities and make peace. With the Shirai Ryu. Of course, this gets momentarily stopped or delayed by Frost, who even Sub-Zero says she showed promise, but she's too stubborn for her own good. They stop the fight, and then through a reveal from the head of Sector, they find out that Quan Chi was the one behind setting things up for the Shier Ryu to be slaughtered by the Lin Kuei. So, Scorpion is determined to, quote, make Quan Chi pay. Not in realizing how much this feeds into the plans of Quan Chi and Shinnok. Quan Chi and Shinnok, well, at the same time, Quan Chi is being captured by special forces, a force led by Jax, or being consulted by Jax. And when they bring him to, it's also at this time that, well, it's prior to this that we have rebel encampments coming, not rebels, but refugees from Outworld appearing in Earthrealm. And along it was, of course, Kano. So this is what led Cage and Sonya to go talk to Jackson Briggs to come out of retirement. And what they do is, yes, he does come out. He comes in. He manages to drag Quan Chi's butt back. Quan Chi seems a bit willing. And this is when Scorpion slaughters him. D'Vorah shows up with the amulet. And Quan Chi's death is what, in his last words, is what allows Shinnok to be freed again. And Shinnok goes through and starts kicking butt and taking names. And just after, they leave with Johnny, captive, to, quote, get to the Jinsei chamber, we find out that the Kombat kids have returned from Outworld to find this mess, and now must head there. In the meantime, Kotal and his forces have come through, still believing that the Earthrealm was working with D'Vorah. And when it's revealed that, and of course at this time Raiden tries defending the Jinsei, but ends up being defeated. He must then... Raiden's a bit helpless in this matter. Quan Chi is fighting. I think even we saw Fujin try and help in this, as well as Bo Rai Cho shows up. But as things play out, Shinnok manages to start corrupting, getting a more powerful form. The Kombat kids fight their way through, having to defeat Kotal and his forces. Kotal sees what's happening, figuring Earthrealm is doomed, and hopes to buy time from Outworld by, quote, now trying to, trade in the Kombat kids as prisoners. That's a peace offering. He's not initially bad. He's not bad. He's a decent person. He's just trying to do what he can to save Outworld. And got fooled in the process by D'Vorah. Well, of course, they before he can succeed, Sub-Zero manages to show up. I think also Scorpion is there helping to keep them at bay so that the combat kids can get to the Jinsei, and Cassie basically fights her way in, and seeing her father in trouble, it's enough to literally kick his ass, defeating Shinnok for the last time. Shinnok is utterly defeated and drained. And it ends. But there is some corruption. In fact, it's now being reflected in Raiden as he is getting more aggressive. And he kills, eventually he decapitates Shinnok and delivers Shinnok's head to the new leaders of Netherrealm, the revenants of Johnny Cage and Mileena, as a message. Don't try anything. There are fates worse than death. What ends up happening after this point is we find that there is someone more powerful who is not thrilled with this turn of events. And this is what starts the events of Mortal Kombat 11. I mean, we see some reconciliation. That Johnny and Sonya have rekindled their romance. Johnny is still a devoted father and keeps doing some movies. I don't know whether they are high quality or not, but he does it to keep them happy. He does it to keep them in the life they become somewhat accustomed to. And with Cassie and the Special Forces, it gives her more time with her mother. And you can tell that they care. But events continue on, because we find out that Shinnok was the child of Kronika, who controls time. She is a Titan, which are apparently more powerful than the Elder Gods. And so things play out that she is not happy. And she is going to take part, she is going to reset time. Again. Yeah, she's done this before. She's done it multiple times before, as the storyline plays out. And by doing so, she has brought characters from the past to the present. She does this as a way to, quote, wipe out the current version of Raiden, and she plans to eliminate him from the timeline entirely. And here's the thing. When this happens, it's after an assault is done on Netherrealm. Raiden and the Special Forces go to, quote, systematically weaken Liu Kang and Kitana's forces. And they do this in a brilliant way. Raiden acts as the distraction, not the assault team. When he shows up in Netherrealm, he starts slaughtering forces. And you can see his corruption as his power is red. What ends up happening from there is this. He fights. While the Special Forces sneak into the Bone Temple, which is where Shinnok's head is kept, and then set a bomb to destroy it. The mission, which is, quote, led by Cassie, well, Cassie is sort of the commander, but of course, Sonya, who is now general, I believe, at this point, takes them either general or she's captain. It's one of the two. Or colonel, one of the two. She's a higher rank now. They are to, quote, fend things off while a bomb is set. During the attack, a cave-in happens, trapping Sonya Blade under it. And she gives a direct order to Cassie to leave her. And she then sets off the bomb. This is devastating. And this is when the time quake happens, bringing characters from the past to the present. Raiden disappears from sight, and we see a younger Jax, a younger Sonya, and a younger Johnny appear in the Special Forces compound. This surprises Jackie, Cassie, and Johnny. Meanwhile, in Outworld, Kotal is holding a judgment on the Collector, who was one of Shao Kahn's lieutenants, newly introduced for MK11. When Shao Kahn from the past appears, Melina from the past appears, and several other characters from the past. Raiden is now in Outworld, a little confused. Liu Kang and Kung Lao are there, confused. Shao Kahn arrives with Scarlet and younger Jade, which Kotal's happy to see. Apparently they were an item. And Katana's there too, if I haven't mentioned her. Shao Kahn wants to, quote, take his claim back because he is entirely confused. However, Kotal seems to realize that they are refugees from time now. Of course, Shao Kahn doesn't take this. We end up having Kotal kick his butt. And Collector and Devora. Well, Devora shows up and rescues Shao Kahn and those loyal to him, which includes Baraka. Because apparently there's some Tarkatans left. Or such, or they've been brought forward. Maybe there's some Tarkatans left. Kotal has thought to eliminate all of them because Baraka sided with Melina. But then the past characters past Raiden and company talk with Kotal and discover that they are 25 years in the future. That much has changed. That Shinnok has been defeated. And Raiden starts to figure Kronika is behind this. Something's going on. Or he's starting to figure this out. And so they get transported back to the Special Forces, to which even they are being brought up to speed too on this whole event. And you can see the difference in Johnny Cage. between the cages. At the same time, we find out that the Lin Kuei factory is up and running. And so, what happens here is that we find out that Kronika is using the Lin Kuei. She's making alliances. She's made an alliance with Shao Kahn from the past. He is to, quote, get the Outworld forces together to protect Kronika's plan and ensure his place in the new era. She has gotten the Cyber Lin Kuei with its now new leader. Many think it is Sector, but it's actually Frost, who is revealed when Kung Lao are revealed after Scorpion and Sub-Zero do an assault on the Cyber Lin Kuei facility. We also meet up with we meet Garrus, who is immortal. He is undying. He's been killed many times, multiple times, and he just keeps coming back. It takes him a little while to reform. We also have a Kano from the past, who meets up with his present self, and hence giving the Black Dragon in league with Kronika. And she even goes as far as to recruit the older Jax. So now they must stop things. They must take steps to stop things. And in the process, they are wiping out each and every method. The younger Kitana, now in the present, manages to unite Outworld. She gets the Shokans on her side. She has the Adinians on her side. She's getting the people on her side. She even gets the Tarkatans on her side by promising them an equal say. Representation. And in a battle that happens, Kotal Khan is grievously injured. And Kitana also then proves that she is a leader. And she kicks Shao Kahn's butt. And now Kitana has united Outworld. Now, the Revenants from the Revenants of now are following orders and not killing any versions of their younger selves. And when the Kanos and the Cyber Lin Kuei attack special forces, they kidnap Sonya. They also kidnap the younger Johnny Cage. This is also after the older Johnny Cage beats some sense into his younger self. And then we start to see why they are so dead. We get a more understanding of why they are keeping the younger versions, safe. Because when a bullet grazes younger Johnny's cheek, you see the same scar appear on older Johnny. And as things play out, with Sonya captured, they go to lead an attack on the Black Dragon. Kano's enjoying some vengeance. And the younger Kano, along with a younger Cabal, they have a little fight. Young Kano's convinces Cabal that she's the one who puts him in disfigures his face, leaving him to have to wear a rebreather unit and all that. So Kano tries to kick her butt. He then brings in Johnny Cage, the younger one. Johnny is smart enough to realize that they're not going to buy it if he takes a fall. They'll know. Which shows that this Johnny is wising up. So, Sonya, they eventually, Cassie and her forces come in, rescues them. We have a fight with the Kanos, to which the older one grabs Cassie. He's all smug as he thinks he's got the upper hand, while the younger Kano has just recently got his butt kicked by the young Sonya. To which he says, "Thank you for reminding me of the rules," and literally shoots Kano right in the non-cyber eye, killing him, causing the one holding Cassie to stagger with a similar wound now and dissolve into sand. And now the Black Dragon's forces are in shambles. Another of Kronika's forces wiped out. Well, she still has the Cyber Lin Kuei and the Revenants. In the same breath, our Scorpion, is trying to get passage from Karen. And Kronika's daughter, Shinnok's sister, Cetrin, who also basically imprisoned the Elder Gods at Kronika's wishes, is also created a bridge for her forces that were still loyal to come over to protect Kronika's keep, which took a lot of energy. Kronika will do what her mother says. It just shows how much she's been whipped. The forces continue. They attack. However, we have one other past figure to deal with, and that is past Scorpion. And he will not kill himself. He may fight himself, but he won't kill him. And when he sees Kronika literally kill him in a brutal fashion, he realizes the folly of his way. He realizes, yeah, there was peace. They did manage peace. And so Scorpion obeys his dying self's words and goes to make things right. He informs Raiden of what's happening. We also learn that prior to this, that Jackie and the younger Jackson Briggs went to get Kronika's crown. But Cetrion sort of beat them to it and had older Jax helping him. And of course, eventually Jax realizes he's been a fool. Especially as the forces go to stop, Kronika's forces go to stop Raiden's forces. But we also learn, prior to that Kronika has been manipulating the timelines all along and always managing to put Raiden at odds with Liu Kang. Because she knows that if they work together, that's a problem for her. And it also makes the MK versus DC universe a canon entry in the Mortal Kombat timelines, because it was a reset of sorts. And so, we now have them go in. And this is also because she has now kidnapped Liu Kang. Now, the Revenant Liu Kang uses some of the soul magic that he had picked up from Quan Chi and somewhat from Shang Tsung, and uses it on his younger self to augment his own powers. And while the ships are coming to stop Raiden and all the good forces with the Cyber Lin Kuei, Raiden in turn then eventually defeats Jax, and Jax wises up. We then have a fight with Kronika, and he's like the one that says she's the one in charge of all the Cyber Lin Kuei, surprising them that it wasn't Sector, because they still suspected Sector, but Sector sort of kerblooied. So Raiden fries her brain, and then he's fighting the Revenant Liu Kang. And when he defeats Liu Kang's like, kill me. That's, I'd rather heal you. To which Raiden pulls the upset of the century. He literally elevates Liu Kang to godhood, in some ways sacrificing himself. Some ways, I say. Causing Liu Kang to disappear out of Kronika's keep, surprising her. And we now have Fire God Liu Kang. Which leads to a funny comment from Kung Lao. Because before, when Kung Lao, when Liu Kang and Kitana showed interest in each other, he's like, she's out of your league. And now when he got elevated to godhood, Kung Lao's like, now he's out of her league. or she's out of his league now. And Liu Kang basically goes in, fights Kronika in a battle where Kronika has gotten to the point that she can start resetting time, and reduces everything back to prehistoric era first. If she wins a fight in that battle, she resets time, she moves it back to the dawn of time. In the process, we have Liu Kang manage to defeat her. Now, moving back to the dawn of time is the canonically correct ending, because the Aftermath story sees three characters from a void, unaffected by the time rewind, come back. Those being Nightwolf, Fujin, and Shang Tsung. And Shang Tsung points out that in the process of defeating Kronika, you have destroyed her crown, which you're not going to be able to harness things. You need the crown. And so the team up of Shang Tsung, Fujin, and Nightwolf must travel to just before things happen to get the crown first. But in order to do so, they have to, quote, revive Shiva. Well, unfortunately, they get shoved forward too far. They get basically thrown into the fight that happens when Kitana's forces are fighting Shao Kahn's forces. And in turn, Kitana wins. So they have to move and take care of things. They have to first go to Netherrealm and get Sindel's body, get Sindel's Revenant form. Afterwards, they have to get her to a soul chamber, which there is, quote, only one accessible right now, and that one is in Outworld. But to get there, they need help. Well, Shiva was Sindel's bodyguard. And so Shiva, they recruit Shiva. Then they revive Sindel. And then they get to Kronika's Island. Or not to Kronika's Island, Shang Tsung's Island, where the crown is. And they manage to get the crown before, quote, Jackson, the younger Jackson, and Jackie get there. Thus, changing the timeline now. It's at this point that Sindel shows her true colors again, rescues Shao Kahn, and we have them causing havoc, defeating Kitana's forces, subduing some of the special forces that include Cassie and Sonya and Johnny. They turn things around, and Shang Tsung manages to trick Fujin into giving him the crown, and he in turn fights and defeats Kronika. Now with the crown, now he has the crown. And to Shang Tsung's shock, Liu Kang had anticipated all this. To which Shang Tsung has to give him some admiration on that. That was some fantastically cold of you to do. You've learned something, Liu Kang. And then you have a fight where you can play as either one. You could either play as Shang Tsung or you could play as Liu Kang. Liu Kang is, of course, the canonical ending, in which the timeline is restarted again. Things evolve. Your last scene with Liu Kang is him greeting Kung Lao, the great Kung Lao, to set things in motion again. But if you choose Shang Tsung, Raiden and Fujin are now his loyal lieutenants. And giant Shang Tsung is like impressive, and he's like, "It has begun." Which the actor they have playing Shang Tsung was the one who played him in the original Mortal Kombat movie, and that was impressive too. An impressive choice, in my book. And that ends pretty much where the Mortal Kombat storyline is to date. What will 12 bring, I do not know. However, with each of these entries, they started adding downloadable characters, unlockable characters, guest characters that were quite an amazing choice. Some which were the traditional MK secret characters, so to speak, that you could play as these characters from MK. Some were guests. Some of them have been from horror movies or sci-fi movies. Examples, Freddy Krueger. Well, to go through the list of these guest characters from movies and such, we have Freddy Krueger. We have Leatherface. We have Jason Voorhees. We have the Predator. We have the Alien. The Xenomorph. Whatever you want to call it. We have the Terminator. We have Spawn. We have RoboCop. We have Rambo. And just for shits and giggles, We got the Joker, who is also referencing the DC versus MK game, or the MK versus DC Universe game, and shows how crazy he is. And with each installment, they added something new, how things worked, advanced things. But I'd like to see what they are going to do for 12. I mean, 11 ended with a reboot of sorts. So what will 12 bring? It should be interesting. And I really look forward to seeing what that choice is. And that's all I'm going to say about this series that rebooted the franchise in a clever way, a soft reboot. It's something I think everybody should at least have a chance to play at least once in their lives. I want to see where it goes. I want to see what they do with this one. I'd like to see where they go with 12. Because I don't think the series is over. It's too popular to be done. But again, we will see where it goes. And that's all I'm going to say about MK, the MK franchise from 9 on. Maybe one day I will indulge in getting the original games again. But I would like, if I would like it to be able to play all of them. Mortal Kombat 1 through 4, which were pretty much started the arcade, were part of the arcade time, and eventually moved out of the arcade to the home consoles. Deadly Alliance, I think that's the 5th one. Then the 6th is Deception, and the 7th is Armageddon. I don't think they've ever been ported to computer. I'd have to look. Hopefully they are. Maybe I can pick them up. And then, of course, MK versus DC. But until then, if I ever get them, I'll have to put them up on the channel somehow. But until then, I wish you all to take care. I wish you all to have fun. And thank you for listening. And again, this is Rich Kale here on YouTube, Rich Gen X elsewhere. Bye all.